Here I am. That's right. I told you I would be in New York. This week I'm here at the United Nations Consensus on the Status of Women, or CSW. It's the 63rd session. And I'm here with friends that came up as well. We have Natalie Klein here, and we have her daughter Megan as well, and my daughter Afton, who is videoing right now. We'll get her in a minute. But we will be interviewing Sharon Slater at a future time because she's negotiating with delegates right now and could not make it. I know I told you last week that she'd be here. So we'll get her soon because she's amazing and you will love to hear from her. So we decided that we're going to share with you what we've been learning at the UN this week. But before that, because I am the pain whisperer, I wanted to share a quick story about what happened to me yesterday. I had my friend Ronnie Craig text me, "Hey, I have a friend, Christy, and she hurt her hip, and I was wondering if you could just help her with her hip pain." And since I love to help people fix their pain, he texted me her number, so I called her. And sure enough, she's a runner. Most runners get injured, at least 99% of runners get injured every year. So she had some hip pain, and I talked to her over the phone and was able to tell her some things to do. And today she's much better. She went out on a long 5 to 8 mile run, she said, and it's feeling much better. She was ecstatic that she didn't have to go to the doctor. It was something very simple and minor, and so that's what I do. I love to help people fix their pain. So if you have some kind of pain that you're not sure if you should go to the doctor, then give me a call, message me on Facebook, and I'd love to help you. So back to our exciting experiences here though at the UN. So Natalie and Megan and Afton and I, what we've been doing is going to various different events, and then usually at night we kind of reconvene and discuss what things we learned at each of the different events, different topics. So we're going to give a little bit of the interesting things we've been learning, because I don't know if you've ever been to the UN, but it's really interesting. So let's start with, what would we like to start with?
Well, this morning we went to a really interesting one. Got up early and headed over there to see the event that was all about the sex workers, which, if you don't know UN lingo, sex workers is their euphemism for legalized prostitution. And this is the first time they've ever had a real side event, an official side event at the UN. So all of the sex workers that were there and present and represented were ecstatic, and there was, lots of cheering and excitement going on.
Did you check for condoms in their purses?
No.
I'm kidding. No, that's one thing they say. People. We can't be discriminated against for policemen to look for condoms in our purses, because that's discrimination, But of course, I learned that when it was the HIV/AIDS level conference where you're learning to stop AIDS. And they did not want to have to be checked for condoms because that was discrimination against their work. So,
okay, yeah.
Anyway, that was a joke.
So, yeah, they were really concerned. So the whole thing was talking about how to move forward their rights as sex workers and to normalize that and take away the stigma and the shame that many cultures have. One of the countries, was it Norway? Netherlands is the only one that has decriminalized it, and they're anxious for other countries to join them so that they're not the lone wolves out there.
Oh, no, it's New Zealand.
Oh.
New Zealand.
Oh, New Zealand.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not illegal in New Zealand?
Yep.
No. It's well, and like abortion, they say if we make it legal, then it's now safe. So they believe, from listening to, in their own words, they believe that decriminalizing sex work, prostitution, that it will protect the health and rights of the sex workers, and it will reduce the percentage of people that contract AIDS.
Yeah, by 30%.
By 30%. So how they figure that, I have no idea. So just like abortion, they think if you make it legal that now it will be safe. They say that the abortion that is legal is safe and abortion that is illegal is unsafe, when in reality no abortion is safe.
It's safer to not have an abortion.
Right.
Most likely.
Giving a baby,
statistically,
having the baby is the safer thing. But here at the UN, all you hear is that giving birth kills women and that it's the most dangerous thing.
which is not true. Yeah.
And only illegal abortion is unsafe, which we watched a fantastic documentary where this is proven completely false. It's called Strings Attached, and let me give you the actual
URL.
Will you pull that up? I will look it up and tell you, because
Okay.
there's a lot of, I wouldn't just Google that. I'll give you the exact link before we're done, because there's a lot of other things on the internet with that name that I would not want you to go to.
That was done by the permanent missions of Nigeria here at the UN. They are the co-sponsors of this movie, so it's not people that just randomly put it up. It's Nigerian nations here at the United Nations.
Yes, and it kind of is exposing the whole thing around abortion and whether it's safe or unsafe, and she'll give you everything you need to know. It's called stringsattachedfilm.com. So put film in there. Stringsattachedfilm.com.
You should type that on there after. Can you type that on there? Okay, Strings Attached Film. So what else,
be sure to watch
Megan,
that.
did you... So you went to another one today.
I
Or you
did.
went the same... You went to a different one.
No, I went to for the sex work one.
Yeah.
I went to
Both
the
did. Was there anything that stood out to you from that you took notes on?
One thing I thought was really interesting was that they want the right to demand and be organized and have an organization with all the same social protections as any other job. They compared it to an office job where you wouldn't go into an office job and I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't
Well,
have to finish it down because that's the only part.
They said it's just another job.
Yeah.
And it should be given the dignity and respect and the support that any other job would be given. And that a lot of people have a different idea about it, but these people have to go to work every Monday through Friday like everyone else in order to pay the bills, and that should be given
And they
dignity
say-
and respect
right.
for that kind of job.
And they do say their work contributes to the community, right?
That it's
I guess
essential.
It's essential to the
They
community.
said essential.
Okay.
That it's essential, and that they shouldn't be viewed as victims or criminals. They did
Is there a
say
certain
that
age?
that minors participating in sex work they would consider exploitation, but if adults choose to be part of that and use that for their occupation, that it's consensual, so that it's not. They said we should not conflate sex work with sex trafficking, that they're completely different things, which
Wow.
I don't know how you separate the two.
Was it
Yes.
the age of 18? And if it's not, then it's
No.
human trafficking?
It was, I think it was about 20 or 21, and actually one of their points was trying to decrease the age to 18, because if you're an adult, then obviously you should be allowed to go into any job you want. Just like an office job at 18, you could go into an office job. They're saying that's the same thing as going into sex work.
So they want to lower the age from 21 to 18
Right.
as being legal.
Right, because
For
technically,
prostitution.
as an 18-year-old, you're an adult. So why should you have to wait until you're 21? So you
So
should
we
be able
turn
to do that.
18 next year. So wow.
I
So
know.
that could be your first job.
Oh,
Well, you might get a lot of money. I mean, it contributes with all that money. You might get a really nice car. So you're contributing to the community because you're going to buy a nice car from Ford. So
Yeah.
that helps their
I'm
business,
just helping
right?
the economy.
You're just
really.
helping the economy. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. They did say that.
And you might not get AIDS, really. I mean, because they usually practice safe sex generally, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what they're known for.
So they keep condoms in their purses like they're supposed to.
When condoms don't even protect against STDs, and that's what they teach, that if you have a condom then you're completely safe, when you're not. And it's proven so many times in statistics that
This is Afton talking, by the way.
sorry, yeah, but it's proven so much that scientists don't even need any more further experimentation, because it is a fact that condoms don't don't protect against STDs and AIDS and stuff.
So yeah, like you can look up those statistics because I know it lowers the chance of getting AIDS, but it does not eliminate it for sure.
Yeah, it's actually in that book.
It's actually in this book, Stand for the Family, and we'll tell you more about this book too. This is Sharon Slater wrote this book.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So-
a lot of the things that they talk about here are one of their big issues is preventing violence against women. And one of the things they said about legalizing prostitution or decriminalizing sex work and taking away any discrimination against it or stigma against it is that it will protect, that they figured they can use the human rights approach in order to get it legalized. They were all talking about how they can get it legalized in all these countries, and they just said all you have to do is call it a human right, and then it has to be treated and accepted. It has to be treated with dignity and respect, and you can tell it in order to get it passed in your countries. You convince them, you tell them that do it in a context of preventing violence.
Yeah.
Which
of course I agree with. I don't like violence against women, but I don't want my daughter to start being a prostitute as a human right of hers, right?
And prostitutes are known to suffer more violence than almost any other group.
I know. That's a good point.
It's a very dangerous
that would be, of
occupation.
course.
Occupation.
You can only imagine that.
Yeah, but
I don't want to imagine
they
that.
have the right to decide, and it's that bodily autonomy is.
So that's one theme being here at the UN is these women are trying to bond together and motivate each other, and so there's a spirit of sisterhood here and women standing together, which is good if it's used in the right way. But these women that want to be prostitutes and sex work to promote decrease in violence against women, that just does not make any sense. There's a disconnect there for sure.
They believe it's only violent because it's not legal. If it was legal, they think somehow it won't be violent. That somehow the nature of it will change. Just like gay and lesbian and transgender, they think if it's legalized and normalized and taught as a normal thing, that somehow all of the anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts that they have will now go away, which has been proven not to be the case because as many, even because in Sweden where that has been normalized and accepted and embraced, that lifestyle, the LGBTQ lifestyle has been embraced, they still have the highest numbers of suicide. The suicide rates have not gone down at all, even though they are the most accepting country for this.
And interestingly, I was in one of the side events, and this lady from Sweden, she's a social worker from Sweden, and she passed me a flyer where they are actually against prostitution, they're against human trafficking, and surrogacy of motherhood, which is very interesting, even though everything else is so
very open about everything else.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, you brought up transgenderism. I was shocked at an event we were at yesterday, where we went to an event where it talked about conversations on taboo subjects. So I was expecting, like how to bring up if a girl's pregnant and if she wants an abortion, how to talk to her about that, or if she's had an abortion and she feels terrible but hasn't told anybody, how to help her come up with that kind of conversation, or talk to somebody that's had this stuff that wants a transgender operation. And so I was thinking we were going to talk about those topics at this event or session we went to.
Where they split us up into
groups.
groups.
Where they split us up. You took a little color of a sticker, and when you came in, and so everybody had blue, green, yellow, or red.
Separated into colors.
Separated into colors, and then they started talking about societal norms and structural barriers and
all the biases, the
resource.
religious and personal biases that
Guys.
that we all have, and how to overcome all of those in order to change culture and change society,
Right.
and to be able to accept new norms
Yeah.
and
yeah,
different lifestyles.
progressive norms. But one interesting thing was in our group, because you had to decide a topic. So some groups decided abortion. What was your topic?
Discrimination against women with disabilities.
Discrimination against women with disabilities. What was your topic, Afton?
Child marriage.
Oh, yes, child marriage. That was very interesting, where you're marrying off children in certain cultures. Another one was education of girls in rural places.
Ours was
And
focused around menstruation.
menstruation. Yeah, because a lot of
taboo.
topics in some countries, they don't have any hygiene products, so a lot of the girls don't go to school when they're on their period, and they miss their education a lot because of the stigma. They don't have any hygiene products. So there are really concerns for certain things. But so in my group, we couldn't come up with a topic, and it was just funny. We kept going around different topics, and then this lady in our group, she's from the UK, and she was very upset, and she says, we need to talk about this subject because it's really bothering me. And she said, in the UK right now, and this lady's gay actually, and this really is just upset her so much. She said these young girls are getting educated in the schools about transgenderism, and so these 12-year-olds are cutting off their breasts and taking hormones, growing beards, changing their bones, changing their mental abilities, and sterilizing themselves for life. And she's like, it's increased 2,000% in the last 3 years. And the schools are pushing it. They're making the teachers teach it. And 600 parents have taken their children out of these schools because they're forcing this on the children, and the parents are very upset about it.
They call it rapid onset gender dysphoria.
Yeah. ROGD.
Yeah.
ROGD.
Which is different than something that you're born with, or
Yeah.
that you struggle with, that you've had since the time you were little. It's something
Right.
that all of a sudden develops when you're a teenager, when all your other friends decide they want to be a different sex. So it's a social contagion
Yeah.
version of transgenderism, where it's now the cool thing to do.
Yeah, it's the cool thing. And it happens with a lot of girls now. It's like the thing to do. She was upset. I think she's in the medical profession. That's what I was going to say. And so she's upset that the drug companies are making all this money off the drugs. The doctors are making all this money off doing the operations.
Oh, and they have
And then I go to another session when the African ladies are furious and upset and wanting to make laws against genital mutilation of the girls, of the young girls there. So here it's illegal. They're trying to make it illegal in Africa to cut off girls' genitals.
And
but then all of a
all
sudden
the
in
women
the
at
UK,
the UN are against female
They're
genital
totally against
mutilation.
that.
They think it's
Of course.
horrible. Even the people here in America and Europe, all the
Right.
women think that's terrible, and it should stop.
And then in this other session, I'm hearing this lady that's completely upset because they're mutilating girls in the UK, and it's totally fine. And it's a law, and they're pushing it on these young girls. And so I'm like,
You need
what?
the transgender. It's
Yes,
okay if it's for
it's-
transgenderism.
Yes.
But not
I'm like,
okay if
oh my
it's-
goodness. How do I... You can't. Yeah, it's just so difficult. It's such a disconnect. And I guess if they think one thing's legal, then it's okay. And if it's not legal, just like you said, it's not okay. So it's just really scary and terrible. And how do you
Well, and these
come
are
to an agreement?
these are young.
with all
I mean,
these
these are
people.
young people
So-
that are young.
Yeah.
I mean, the studies show that a child's brain is not fully developed until they're 25, and they're making a decision that will affect them for the rest of their life. That's non-reversible,
Yeah, permanent sterilization.
and
And
body change.
I had-
mean, they just
I actually was telling a group about this because when I was young, I know a lot of you might know this, I was like a tomboy, right? All my friends were boys. I played sports. I played Smear the Queer. I played football in pads and helmets and everything. And my hair was short. People thought I was a boy. And I hated dresses. I never played with dolls. And in today's society, or especially if I was in the UK, I'm sure everybody said, well, yeah, you must have been a boy. You must be a boy. And so, you know, I didn't like to wear a dress until I was in high school, honestly, and I didn't think about motherhood. I didn't play with babies. I babysat rarely. Not until I was in college did I really start to change kind of how I was. And once I had my first baby, of course, that was way different. And being a mother of 8 children, like, I'm so glad I, you know, had that time to figure out who I was. And so I wouldn't have known that as a child. There's no way. So too many kids are going to make a permanent decision, and they're trying to take
fully realize the consequences of that.
Yeah,
decision.
before you even know who you are. I mean, your body image when you're in a teenager is you have to learn through all those things. You're going through puberty.
Yeah.
Your brain's changing. Like, how would you even
there's
know?
Confusion there. You just got to ride that puberty time out to let things settle down.
So anyway, so that's quite a topic.
They say 85% grow out of that. If there is some kind of gender dysphoria through those teenage years, you grow out of it.
With a minimum of 60%.
Yeah.
What are they?
So it's like a minimum of 60% of kids who are over it by the time they're 18.
Okay.
And
up to 95, I think.
They just naturally resolves.
Yeah.
But if the drug companies and the medical people can get them while they're young, they not only are they taking care of the sick population, now they have a reason to have lifetime customers of otherwise healthy kids.
People.
So they get them in the pipeline when they're young, and now they're dependent on those hormone pills and the surgeries. But those hormone pills they have to take for life.
Yeah.
And then they're going to have, and those hormone pills have been proven to cause all kinds of medical problems, from cancer to heart disease to you name it.
Well, we all know steroids is terrible for the body. Like, my husband's been into bodybuilding because he's lifting weights, and like all these top bodybuilders that he's looked on, like, they've died at less before they turned 43 from major heart attacks because they took steroids, you know.
Yeah.
So it's terrible on the body.
And it's sterilizing them. It's making them so they'll never be able to have children.
Yeah. And both boys and girls. Yeah. Also, I went to the Olympic sports session, which I thought they were going to bring up, you know, transgenders entering in the Olympics, which are coming up next year. They did not want to bring that subject up. I guess it was too taboo to bring up. They were talking about sexual harassment, mainly, or abuse in sports, and which I do not agree with sexual abuse of any athlete whatsoever, or any kind of abuse. So, but I'm curious about how that's going to happen this next Olympics, where men are going to be in the women's category, and anyway, it'll be, which is very unfair to women, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, what other topics?
Yeah. Well, we went.
Megan, did you have any?
Did you have one?
One that you went to?
I think the transgender one was a really good
Oh, you
one.
went to the transgender one.
The transgender one.
Who put that on? Like,
I think it was a panel of different countries. So there is
Were they actually transgender
Argentina.
people on the panel?
There were several.
They were
was
all
at least
transgender? Two were
that I
transgender.
know of.
And others were just representatives from those
so you
countries
could tell.
talking about
Yeah,
it.
so there was like Brazil and Fiji, were a couple. There were about 6 of them. Just
Which
kind
I'm
of
talking
commenting on just what's happening in their countries in relation to transgenderism, and what laws are or aren't being implemented, and what they can do, are trying to do better in their countries in order to make it just like with the pronouns, with IDs and passports,
Driver's license.
yeah, driver's licenses, like
Be able to have a gender marker on there for them.
And if you say he
Besides
or
male and
she
female.
and call them the wrong thing, it's a fine of $10,000. Did you
I'm
know?
not sure if it was in this one, but I did hear in one of them that it was up to $250,000.
Yeah,
$250,000.
New York. New York is one of those.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other countries,
if you
but-
call them the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Well, in California, they're trying to pass bills right now too, criminalizing foster parents if they call their foster children a pronoun that they don't want. So, I mean, this is an attack on free speech.
Yeah.
People are not allowed to, and it's affirming a lie or a delusion, which is the least loving or compassionate thing you could do for a person. And talk about
not treat them like a real human being.
And talk about creating chaos in a society. I mean, several times I heard him talk about how the health system is completely discriminatory towards these special groups, the transgender, the LGBT, the non-binary, non-conforming individuals, and how they are fighting to change that. And New York, we heard the New York government official in the one talking about how New York is the first one in the state to get that changed in the healthcare system.
So explain what that means.
So when you get a medical chart, when you go into the hospital or the doctor's office, all the charts say male or female,
right.
And there isn't another option. And so then they have to pick one or the other, and they're not comfortable doing that. And wherever they go, it's the same thing. So when every cell in your body, according to your DNA, has a marker for your true biological gender, and they try to separate gender from sex and say they're completely different things, that sex is the biological part and gender is how you feel. And especially when it comes to healthcare, your body, every cell of your body knows if you're male or female.
You could just do a cheek swab. Maybe they'll do a cheek swab.
And every doctor knows that, based on, like, if you're going to have a surgery, they need to know, because you are built differently on the inside. If even those that claim, that they were born with genitalia that was not clear, all they have to do is do a DNA test, and it will tell them male or female, even if the genitalia makes it unclear because it didn't form right for whatever reason. And it changes the way what kind of medicine they give you, and how much, and
you have
hormones,
testosterone,
everything. You
can't be treated like a female if you're male.
Right.
Really.
And so
your testosterone levels are always going to be high.
Yeah. So imagine if the charts aren't clear about that. How are the doctors going to be able to medicate clearly or operate
safely,
clearly or safely? Right.
Like, you might get the wrong medicine and it might kill you, honestly.
Right.
That is just so dangerous. That is so...
So there's all kinds of problems with that, and they really are pushing having those gender markers changed on your birth certificate. A lot of places have agreed to let them change it on their passport and their driver's license. Mm-hmm. But I heard them say today that is not good enough. That it's got to be on the birth certificate, or they won't be happy. And they had the reasons. I can't remember off the top of my head what it was. But
it has to be listed what they are. What do you mean? If it's on the birth certificate,
they want to change it on their birth certificate.
So it says
to agree with whatever they've chosen.
Oh, so they have to change their birth certificate. If they become a female, they're a male, then they have to go back and change their birth certificate to say female.
Like in Utah last year, a bill was run that they were trying to get it changed so it would be legal for them to change it on their birth certificate. That part didn't pass, but they came up with substitute bills that would allow them to do it on their driver's license or their passport, which I can't remember if those ended up passing or not either. But so this year, it came back, and they're pushing it, and sometimes it's really interesting, because oftentimes the bills that are being run in individual states, people in that state think this has come up in our state and we have to deal with it. What they don't realize is if they look around the country, that almost word for word, copy paste, that bill is being run in many other states. And you go, wow, how did this happen all of a sudden? How is the whole country on fire trying to pass these abortion up to birth abortion bills and stuff? It comes from the UN. This is where they plan and coordinate, and then they all go back to their states and they run the same thing everywhere, and it looks organic, but it all starts here.
It's very true. I was in a session, and this lady came. She's living in Sweden, and she's trying to get help for doulas. They're training doulas in Sweden. And she was asking the Swedish panel, I can't get any funding to help these doulas. Of course, you know, having babies is against the abortion kind of thing, but I can't get any funding from any government support for helping train these doulas. So how do I do it, or what do I do? And one of the panelists, she says, well, what you do is you go to the UN and you put up a session like this, where you set up a session and you write up a document, and then if it's accepted, then you just go back to your country and you say, well, this is what the UN says is what we need to do now, so we need to start doing that as law. They said it's
even if it was never passed as
never
a binding
they
document.
use the UN
They'll just say
as a basis
we talked
to
about
change their law in their own country.
Yeah, we talked about it, so now it's fine.
I actually recorded it. That's
convince
exactly what she said.
They'll convince
Go
the
to the
country that
UN,
we have to change now.
Change it for everybody. This is
Yeah.
the law. This is what you have to start doing.
Which,
So.
you know, it might be interesting to go to this now, because this is from the abortion one that I went to yesterday, where it was countries united, all united for abortion. And, you know, it was just all cheers talking about this. But Brussels came up with their own declaration on abortion rights. Should I just read it?
I don't know if we have enough time to read
Okay.
everything. Read the ones that were like
It's
crazy.
Well, it just says that we, as members of civil society, that's just the general population, so they're talking for us, we the citizens reaffirm that freedom from forced motherhood is a fundamental human right. If they call something a human right, nobody dares challenge it. That, again, that's an attack on free speech, because anything that's called a human right is sacred and shuts down conversation.
Right, good point.
Because
and forced motherhood.
Yes, forced motherhood is that
somebody's
interesting.
gonna force motherhood on you. I
Right.
mean, that's not rape, right? This is forced
Being
motherhood.
forced to carry a baby that you don't want to carry.
Yeah, forced
Okay.
motherhood.
We, the citizens, reaffirm a woman's right to choose and to decide whether or not to pursue a pregnancy, whether to stay pregnant or not.
Yeah.
Within this framework, in the course of carrying out our respective roles, we commit to first call for abortion to fall within the remit of health care in all countries of the world. So paid for by taxes.
So you have to pay with
The
your
transgender people insisted on this too, that this needs to be considered health care, and if it's a human right, you
have to pay taxes for it.
Right, the taxpayers will pay for it. We insist that we call for abortion to cease being considered a crime or an offense, and for it to be removed from the penal and criminal code in those states where this remains the case. Call for abortion to be considered a health right, or like a human right. They always take the human right approach. Covered by Social Security, or if necessary by a medical assistance program for women without Social Security. Call for conscience clauses specifically pertaining to abortion to be removed from legislation. This provision is already granted on an individual basis for all medical procedures, so they want it to be taken out of any laws that would protect healthcare workers from having to perform. Demand that the imposition of any constraints on access to relevant information about abortion be punished. So we can't even give
out any information on
pregnancy
what happens,
resource centers,
pregnancy resource centers, counseling for not having, like, that will be punished if you try and teach that.
So, I mean, I don't know how they define these terms, but it's pretty bold, and they're not hiding anything anymore. Demand the implementation of education programs about emotional and sexual relationships from a young age. That's your comprehensive sexuality education.
Teaching children at the age of 4. I don't want to even say it. It's terrible, but that's what it is.
Go to stopcse.org and watch the documentary.
Yeah. Okay, you need to hurry.
Reject any steps being taken towards granting a fetus legal personhood. Call for all means to be put in place to inform women and men of their rights in relation to reproductive and sexual health, including their right to abortion.
Right.
Sexual, reproductive health and rights. That's their euphemism for abortion, and you hear it ad nauseum here.
But they want to make everybody in the world have to do this.
Yeah.
So it's very bold. The other topic we were going to talk about was, it was very interesting today. How much time do we have?
We are at 35 minutes.
Okay, we're going to wrap it up. We just need Afton to give us a little bit of input on what we did today. So we were at the Catholics for Human Rights session, where they're actually trying to remove the Holy See from the UN, from their position at the UN. So the Holy See is the Catholic representation that started in 1964. They do not vote, so
They have observer status.
They have
That's
observer
what it's called.
status is
They get
all.
to watch and they can influence.
So they don't directly vote, contrary to what they were saying, but they can have a presence as if they were a state. But they're not actually voting like people, contrary to what people think. They think they directly vote, so it's unfair advantage for the Holy See, but that's not true. They
don't have a vote. All
So
they
it's
can
just
do
like
is
they're
try and
represented
influence,
the same
like any of
as
us that might be here.
there's the Organization of the Islamic Council. So they're the Muslim countries that are represented here, and
the NGOs.
and the NGOs, yeah. So there's different religions that are represented here. So yeah, that's loud. Wow. That's the New York outside our windows. So one thing that was very interesting is the attack on religion. So that was concerning to me, because they're attacking the Catholic Church, even though they're supposedly Catholic,
And the LDS.
as well as other
members of the
churches,
Church of Jesus
which
Christ
is
of
what
Latter-day
concerns me. They were criticizing Pope Francis, who I think is a really great pope, actually, but because he's conservative, they don't like him, and so they don't want them to represent anything here at the UN because of their religious values and morals. So if they succeed, then they are successful in removing religious influence. It's a step towards that, and that's what was concerning me, is the preservation of religious freedom. And so if they start this way and gain this ground, then they're going to be able to say religion is not allowed here at the UN, because it's mixing church and state is what they're going to say, because that's what they're trying to say. But the values that they're against are moral values, the religious values, and they want to make it be a political issue instead of a religious value.
Yeah.
So you can't take that out of, a person's belief in religion, and they're trying to completely stop religion
Well,
entirely.
to that point, the meeting we talked about earlier, talking about taboo subjects, we quickly learned that they're really the only taboo subjects here. Like, all of these controversial issues are that's all they talk about here, and it gets kind of tiring.
Yeah.
After a while they hear it, you're like,
No
okay, I'm so
religion.
tired of hearing about this.
No religion brought up.
But religion and family. If you bring up the family, that's the most taboo thing you can bring up.
Yes, I
They
happen to
think
mention
family is the source of pain and violence and abuse.
Yeah,
And
I
people are
happen to
better off without
mention
their
that my
families.
husband was raised by a single mother, and he's a wonderful husband, and that we have 8 children, and everybody just they didn't want to let me say anything else in the rest of the session, because I brought up the family, and so that just made him really feel uncomfortable. It was I could sense the uncomfortableness, like, what are you doing here? And I did say, I said I'm from Houston, and this person's like, what are you doing here? Like, Houston's a conservative state. I mean, Houston in Texas is a conservative state. It was a lady from Sweden. She's like, wow, what are you doing here? I got that quite a bit.
Yeah.
But, so I hope you have, Afton, what's your wrapping up? I think you said something really great today about why it's important to keep the strengths of a woman separate from the equality of a woman trying to be like a man is not, like, say what Peter was telling you about do you like to eat sand? What was it that he said?
No.
Here, let me get you for a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, Afton's gonna let me video her, so.
Get all of this stuff in
Will
the
you waving
bag.
at everybody? Yeah.
Um,
our suitcases on the floor.
We're in a tiny little
Afton and I are
Airbnb.
sleeping on this futon together, and if I get off first, she flips off, or if she gets off first, I flip off.
Costs a lot just to stay here.
Yeah. Okay.
No, but if you think about the difference between men and women, the difference is that women are more nurturing and
and like physically more emotional, and like we can bear children. And if you like take that out, which is what the UN is trying to accomplish, you don't have equality between men and women. You have a sameness that makes like
devalues.
That devalues
diminishes
everything
who you are.
that women have. So they're trying to empower women and bring women like more power by having us equal, when they're essentially like taking away all the power that women already have since birth, you know?
Can contribute, right?
And so, and the funny thing is that like they want women to like be more like empowered with like jobs and work and stuff, and we need more women in the workforce. And the funny thing is that like the reason why like women aren't like CEOs of huge companies is because the people who are ruthless and the people who are like feelingless and like have no emotional attachment at all whatsoever are the people that own these huge businesses and are the CEOs. And those
that can
people,
work 80 hours a week.
Yeah,
right?
And those people just happen to be only men. Like only the meanest, feelingless people
with
testosterone.
Like with testosterone.
No.
Hardly.
No, only the people that are that mean and that stone cold emotionally can be men. Like if you look at the bell curve of men and women with like really, really emotional and like feeling less and stuff, and like the population, the bell curve for women is more towards the emotional side, and the bell curve for men overlaps with women, but it doesn't reach the end of the bell curve for women. And the same for women. The women at the end of the bell curve doesn't reach the end of the men's bell curve, for good reason, because that's how we are born. Men are born as protectors and as like the killers in like old times. Like they were the killers, they were the big burly men that would protect their families.
Get your food.
And the women would be the nurturers that would take care of the children and protect the children in an emotional and like a spiritual sense, and the man would be there to protect everyone else and be that person to like gather them in. And essentially like they're trying to take away the like equality in men and women is being different, and they're trying to take that away and make us all the same so that no one really has a say in anything, and that like we're all just the same and that no one is better than anyone. So great. That's basically all I have to say.
So here's this Equimax. Can you take it out? So they're passing this out at the UN.
They
have these stickers of this men equals women and pound for 16 days.
And they're passing these out. Right?
They're passing these out. And you can take these pills.
Equimax.
They're hormone pills.
Did you try one? I want to try one.
No, don't try one.
They're not hormones. No, they're just Tic Tacs. They're not real pills.
Let me try.
Don't worry.
Are you serious?
Yeah. It's just sugar.
I'm gonna hold it.
Here, we read these.
It's still going.
Yeah, it's 100 milligrams against gender
gonna
discrimination.
All right, so
I'm gonna try this, Jason. Hopefully,
to ensure that
I love you, honey. Just in case this ruins me forever.
I really hope those are really actually Tic Tacs.
They're Tic Tacs.
It is.
Oh, okay. That
Sugar,
scared me.
glucose,
Oh my goodness.
Gum. That's
Just kidding.
Gum.
Yep. Works against inequity and gender discrimination.
Okay.
Yay.
To ensure the desired effect, make conscious choices in political work.
Yes. Equimax works against inequality and gender discrimination. So I just want you to know that I'm glad I'm a woman. The best thing I ever did was be a mother. And my husband, I'm so glad that he's who he is. He's better at math. He can teach my kids math. He's really good at certain things that I am not good at. And so if I was trying to be exactly like my husband, like honestly, we would be not having 8 kids for one. We would not be as good of parents, because a lot of times I don't have any patience and he does, and vice versa. So together we are actually stronger, and because of our differences, we are even better than we could be alone. So that's my contribution that I think you could maybe take home and share with your friends, that men and women are different for a reason, and together
It's a good thing.
their families are stronger. I'm hoping that they'll have a consensus for men conference at the UN, where men actually get together and decide how to be better fathers, teach their sons how to be prepared for fatherhood, and strengthen the family. So men, why don't you get together out there and do something like the women do here, where you feel like you have a group that supports you in standing up and working with women and making this world a better place, strengthening your family and making your society and future generations stronger. So
Not exactly like the women are arguing here, but that's close.
yes.
It's
I
close.
mentioned that here. And
The majority of
women
women want to take that away, but that's
wait,
okay.
What? Fathers? What?
Fathers?
Men?
What are
Yeah,
fathers?
that's what I got when I mentioned it here.
The
So.
women here think that the patriarchy is the problem, but growing up in a family, myself with being the 7th of 10 kids,
Wow.
I know that I had a fantastic mother, and she could accomplish so much. But her ideas that she came up with, she tried to implement, never quite took hold or worked until my dad got behind it. And she said, as soon as my dad would get behind it, it changed everything.
Wow.
If the men can get behind this movement to
family.
strengthen the family, there isn't anything that can stop it. It will help the world realize how beautiful families can be, and that complementary nature between men and women. It is so important. And until
Men
both
stand up.
the men and the women come together and realize how important this is, I feel like our world is in a tailspin right now, and
Right.
and family is the solution.
Right.
Strong mothers, strong fathers, raising strong children to know who they are and to understand their divine roles and
Right.
why they're so important, and not to try to eliminate their unique gender
Differences.
differences. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing, and I'll end on a positive note.
Yeah.
In the name of Jesus
You're
Christ,
one of 10.
amen.
Oh, you're one of 10 kids.
So
That's
good,
awesome.
and I
Great.
loved it, and it's the greatest gift my parents gave me.
Cool. Megan, do you want to say anything?
I just think speaking for the youth, get educated. I've seen so many youth
Oh,
that
yeah.
are just so
Oh,
one-sided. But they go all in, and I think that's as youth we have so much energy, and we're ready to go all in for a purpose. And if it's not religion, or if it's not for the family, then it's going to be whatever the manipulating and powerful people
Right.
will make them.
They like to manipulate the youth because the youth don't have the advantage of life experience behind them, and they're easily swayed because they have this idealistic view of the world. And so if you're going to get behind something, you better research it quick, because one thing we found out is there is a lot of organizations with a lot of really nice, great sounding names that are terrible.
Yeah.
And you would never want to attach yourself. So you gotta do some research before you just jump in and
Jump the gun.
And you can't always believe what your teachers say. That's the problem. Is you think the teachers know everything, you're saying the truth with everything, and that's
your
not necessarily
parents-
true. You need to become educated yourself.
well, and parents need to get educated
And
too.
parents too. Yes.
to
Afghans
protect their
help me.
children.
To protect their
Yeah,
children. Do you
and
have
this book is such a great help. It'll
Yes.
help you connect the dots and
Afton,
figure it all out.
Here, switch so that you can talk about this book, because you've read more of this than I have.
Just zooming in on it.
Okay. Where's your copy?
Oh, my copy is in
Let me
my...
get it. Let me get it.
No,
Yeah.
let me get it.
Okay. All right.
Megan read it before
Okay.
we came to.
Now-
Wow,
You'll be our
you'll just never see
Okay.
the world the same again.
Yeah.
concluding speaker.
It,
Show us how you've marked it up. Okay. Yes, you
And
marked
I
it
still
up.
haven't finished because I mark it up so much. But it just talks about a lot of these issues.
Stand for the family.
And Sharon Slater is the author. She's also the president of Family Watch International, which we support. And it just talks about a lot of different controversial issues and the different like assaults on the family and
And it tells you in
how you
their own
can-
words. Those
Yeah.
that are trying to destroy the family, it tells
It's
you
not
in
just
their
like-
own words.
it's not just like
Their
a bunch
plans.
of
Right.
Like,
It gives you the
nothing.
The actual
Yeah.
UN
it has
documents.
feeling to it.
the actual
Yeah.
UN documents as well. That
It's all footnoted
and
and
it has
documented.
different experiences that back a lot of these things, and it shows you how to protect your family against all these issues and what you can do to help like
Strengthen your
move
family.
things around, you know.
Yeah,
And,
strengthen your community.
stand up
Yeah.
for what you believe
You
in.
can order on Family Watch
Family Watch
International.
Yeah.
.org or .com.
Yep.
And we'll also put up some of the links for the documentaries that you can watch as well.
And
Yeah.
also, if you want to watch the documentary on Family Watch International, it's Stop CSE. I think we already talked
Yeah,
a little
Stop
bit about
CSE,
it.
or it's on the Family Watch International
Yeah.
website, also under documentaries. They
Right.
have a lot of
Or
great
actually-
documentaries on there.
Yeah.
Yep. And
So, what was your experience here at the UN so far? We still have one more day tomorrow, but did you love it?
well, I'm gonna sum it up in one word: controversial.
That's a good one.
It's just
Yeah.
Eye-opening,
Love it.
isn't it?
it's
Possible.
eye-opening. Yes, and so is this book. So read it.
Yep.
And
Okay.
you would just grace him in. And that's it.
Thank you. Okay. Well, we're gonna sign off. So,
Bye.
yeah, join us next week. We'll have. I'll post who we're having next week. I have 2 people that are trying to decide who wants to take what week. So I will let you know in the next few days for the Barriers and Breakthrough show. I'll be back in Houston in 2 more days, and so we'll plan on seeing you next Thursday evening, 8 p.m. on the Barriers and Breakthrough show. But thanks for joining us here at the UN. Natalie
Thanks for
Klein.
watching.
Thanks
I'll
for
have her on
watching.
again. She's got an
52
awesome story.
minutes of this.
Megan, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll try and take some highlights out and repost them for you and some live stuff tomorrow. So thanks for joining us.
Bye.